Hello and welcome back to One Trek Mind with me, Raptor.
And me, Michael.
And today we thought we'd have a bit of an off-the-cuff, non-scripted discussion about Academy, the new Star Trek show that is coming at some point. Because after me and Michael heard about the cancellation of Strange New Worlds when it gets to season 5, we were a little dismayed. So we thought we would spend some time today talking about sort of what lessons we hope the makers of the new Academy program will take from the Star Treks that have come before, but primarily thinking about what lessons they can learn from Discovery and Picard, because I think it's safe to say that neither Discovery or Picard really achieved what was hoped.
Yeah, the new audience they were hoping to gather did not exactly work out. Like, it's true that I think Discovery more than Picard did gain a new audience, but not as much as they were hoping for, and it wasn't enough to keep the show afloat. So I'm hoping that with Academy, they do attempt to do some new things, specifically with this being about Starfleet Academy, which we haven't seen in depth in Star Trek just yet. I would like for them to make some bold choices. I'm always a fan of that. But at the same time, I think they should really reel it in when it comes to really dramatic changes to the lore, to the canon, to the tone of Star Trek. In particular, since this is a story about the future of Starfleet, it's literally about the kids that are going to be going into this program in order to become, the next big potential captains and members of Starfleet and everything. I really want this show in particular to have an uplifting tone.
Which might be difficult considering it's being set in the 32nd century at some point after or during Discovery's final season, technically.
Well, I see, the final season of Discovery to me was probably the most Star Trek-like in tone it ever got, so I think they could pull that off.
Perhaps, although I do think that the 32nd century they've created is not massively uplifting, given, everything that happened with the burn and the collapse of the Federation and the various destructive events that have gone down during Discovery's time in the 32nd century.
True, but you also see the Romulans and Vulcans finally coming together, which was a surprisingly uplifting kind of message for that show. And it seems that the characters themselves did have a kind of reverence for Starfleet, particularly in those final seasons. So I think there could be potential, again, to kind of get back to that hopeful future kind of message that Star Trek has always been about. But at the same time, I don't want them to 100% just go into an almost religious dogma when it comes to Starfleet. I do like in New Trek that they will occasionally question the validity of a system like that. I think they take it too far, particularly in Picard, but I don't inherently hate the idea of questioning an organization or a system, because I'm trying to think how to phrase this. In history, there has been no such thing as a perfect organization. There's always going to be some level of corruption. There's always going to be bad apples in the bunch. And I would like to see them explore that without losing sight of the fact that, again, Starfleet is not a perfect organization, but it tries to be. I think Una said that in Strange New Worlds, and I really resonated with that. I think that is the perfect balance to take when it comes to Starfleet. Again, it's not perfect. There are problems that are present, but it's trying to get to a perfect level. It is trying to be better than what we are currently. And I really want them to get that messaging right on this show.
I think for me, one thing I think they should definitely learn from Discovery especially is that if you are going to have a cast of more than one person and more than one character, actually give the other characters in your show the time to develop, the time to grow their own stories, their own arcs. Don't just hyper-focus on on 1 or 2, which is what really led Discovery to go awry. Probably mostly in season 1 and 2, less so in later seasons, but season 1 and 2 at the very start, you don't want to be creating a program which is already going to be turning people off at the very start with the sort of just focusing on one person. And considering this is supposed to be about a group of cadets, the first group of Starfleet cadets they've had since Discovery's arrival and everything else, let's actually get to know these people. I want some really interesting characters, and I want to, see them go through narrative arcs, trials, tribulations, should that be tribulations, and all the rest, and just actually tell decent character-driven stories again, which has always been Star Trek's real, I feel if it's one thing that Star Trek always did really well, it's like really character-driven stories. Yes, there were big galactic events, but a lot of really great episodes are just characters going through stuff, and it would be nice to see that be done from the start and not have to be a lesson painfully learned and only really acted upon as a show is cancelled.
Agreed. Seeing the characters get the depth and time that they deserve, I think, is something that they really should go with. Again, follow in the footsteps of Strange New Worlds, where you do give a lot of these characters actual storylines and episodes devoted to them so that you can get to know them and say exactly who they are. Like, that was always the biggest problem with Picard and Discovery. There were a lot of characters in those shows who, to this day, I couldn't tell you a single thing about them. I would have to look it up because the show gave them like one scene, if that.
We were talking about what our next crew ranking was going to be, and we thought we'd do tactical officers, and we got to, who is Discovery's tactical officer again?
Yeah, I had no idea it was Reese. I was like, he was? I genuinely didn't know that. And that is a problem. Like, that is showing that character never got anything to do really in the show. And as a result, I barely know who the guy is. Like, I have no clue. Couldn't tell you a single thing. I know there was one scene in season 5 where he said something about his personal life to our new number 1, but it was just breezed over and I couldn't tell you what it was. Like, I can't remember. That character as a whole is just a blur to me. I got nothing. So I agree. That is something I really want to see them do in this show, is give each character a fair shake and give them a chance to develop and have their own arcs and everything. Structurally, what I would love to see out of this show is if they go for a DS9 approach.
Semi-serialized.
Yeah, semi-serialized. Because I think that format works perfectly when you're in one location. And since this is going to be more DS9-ish, with them being at the Academy and not on a starship constantly, I think that would really lend itself well to this kind of story. And again, we're in a current place with streaming right now where serialization is like the go-to all the time. But Star Trek has kind of proven that that's a little difficult to pull off if you're not trying to do super high stakes stories all the time. Like, the only way to make a super serialized Star Trek show, it would seem, is if you give them this huge threat that they have to work towards defending against by the end of the story. And I would really, really despise if that is the route they go with Starfleet Academy, because for one, that would just, plausibility reasons, I would hate it, seeing a bunch of cadets be the only ones that are capable of stopping this galactic ending threat. Like, there's a lot of reasons I would not like that. So I think they should go for the DS9 approach, semi-serialize it. Like, have ongoing arcs and issues that pop up here or there, or over like multiple episode arcs, but let it be somewhat episodic the way Strange New Worlds is, where again, you get to delve into the characters, little problem of the week. I think that would be like true to the nature of Star Trek while also giving everyone like a taste of what modern media is more like now. Because I do think DS9 was very ahead of its time.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that would really lend itself well to Starfleet Academy, specifically because they're all stuck in one place for the majority of the show. Or I would assume. I'm hoping they're not going to be on starships all the time, because that could potentially go wrong. Like, I would like to see that for maybe like a 3-episode arc. One of the cadets gets a spot on a ship where they get to actually try things out, kind of the way they did with Uhura in the first season of Strange New Worlds. But for them to just constantly be going out on like quote unquote away missions while they're in the academy, I think that would tonally not work and would kind of defeat the purpose of having a show about Starfleet Academy.
Something else for me as a, lore and history aficionado, I want to learn things. One thing I think Discovery did a really terrible job of, apart from perhaps the Vulcan Romulan thing, was actually explaining what the galaxy is like in the 32nd century. Like, what's going on with the Andorians, what's going on with the Klingons, what's going on with the Cardassians, all these species that are part of Trek history, not gone near them. I want to learn about the world of the 32nd century. Tell us some of the stuff that's gone on. Show us some of the stuff that's gone on. What are these people like now? Show us these places. For God's sake, show us Cardassia or Bajor or the rest of it, Actually teach. It's called Starfleet Academy, and yes, you're teaching the cadets, but I would also like them to take the same position of, let's teach our audience about the world we are in. I feel like a lot of good shows like Battlestar Galactica, Game of Thrones, whether it's the original series or House of the Dragon, and even Star Trek itself, you come to learn about the place you are in. You come to know its customs, its people, with little intricacies about how it works. And all that helps to immerse you in the story and helps to make things that happen just feel a little bit more important. On DS9, when Lursa and Bator show up in that one episode, you were like, oh god, what's gonna... the fact that you knew they were the Dura sisters that had just caused a Klingon civil war, and now they were showing up at DS9, you were like, oh god, what are they up to? I want us to be able to make those connections as a result of the show. And kind of connected to what you said about the whole, let's not have them dealing with a galactic massive galactic emergency. How about we don't have any galactic emergencies at all? For once, I would like the world of Star Trek to just be, there's nothing going. There's no massive black hole thing coming and destroying planets. There's no super powerful alien entity trying to kill us all. There's no super high-tech mission to get this technology or any of this other bullshit. Let's just have not necessarily everything is 100% fine, but let's just...
I was going to say, we still want conflict.
We want conflict, but it doesn't have to be galactic ending conflict every week.
Exactly. And considering you're in a literal school setting, like, you have the actual perfect opportunity to teach the audience and the characters at the same time about new things. A big thing in screenwriting is you never explain something to a character that already knows it. So if a character, again, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. It's really frustrating in movies and TV when you have someone say, hey, do you remember that time we did this? And they go, yeah. And then they continue to explain it anyways. That's bad screenwriting. There's no reason to be giving that information except to tell the audience at that point. But when you have a bunch of cadets who also don't know this information, it's perfect opportunity to give good exposition and explain some of the current going-ons of the galaxy. So that would be, again, prime real estate for delivering some good exposition and actually teaching the audience about what the 32nd century is like. And a good opportunity to potentially get people on board with the 32nd century, because there's a lot of us who are not super jazzed about it, whether that's because of the aesthetic or the lack of information we have about the era. So again, this is a good opportunity to really go for that. And I am glad to see that the series isn't being completely bogged down with like recognizable characters. Like, as far as I'm aware, Michael Burnham and most of the Discovery cast are not going to be a part of this. It's pretty much just going to be Tilly, which I love Tilly, so I'm fine with that. And
Robert
since
Picardo is coming back as the Doctor.
Yes, and that's where I'm nervous, because again, I'm like, I love the character. However, he's significantly aged out of the role at this point, I feel like. It's kind of the issue I had with Data coming back. In both cases, they are characters that are supposed to never age. So I'm wondering how they're going to get around that without it being another, like, oh, we put him in like a golem body, so now he ages, problem solved. I feel like that's just a really lazy way of doing it. So I am nervous about their incorporation of his character, even though I love the Doctor so much. And I also don't want them to bog us down with constant Voyager references. Just like, oh, well, this one time I was on the Voyager crew and I did this. It's like, here and there, cool. I love a good reference, but let's not completely ride that nostalgia train like all the way to hell. Let's let the characters be their own characters, have him be a good supporting character, maybe even give him like an interesting arc that he could go on. But his inclusion does make me a little worried about that.
I mean, I'm less worried about his age and more worried about them ruining the character, because every time that they've brought a character back, 7 of 9, Picard, Data to a point.
You see, I liked what they did with Data in season 3, despite the aging thing being a weird thing.
Q, of course.
Q was a bad one. That was complete character assassination.
I feel like they haven't succeeded very well at bringing legacy characters back and keeping them as the recognizable characters that they are. Prodigy has done all right with Janeway, I feel. I think they've done a relatively decent job with her so far.
Mostly, yeah.
But 7 of 9, I feel, was in season 1 and 2 was completely mishandled as far as I'm concerned.
I'm a little more lenient on 7 of 9. I appreciate the fact that they made her a little more human-like in her interactions with people. Like, she's definitely come a long way from still having all the Borg collective like driving how she behaves and everything. So I was fine with that aspect of the character, like being different in terms of mannerisms and the way she speaks. I just wasn't a fan of, I guess, the route they took with the character by having her apparently being abandoned by Janeway and becoming like a really cold, callous kind of person as a result. That I wasn't a big fan of. But in terms of the way she played the character, I was more okay with those changes.
Something I also want to see from Academy, and this is perhaps a slightly strange tangent to go on. A criticism that both me and you had about Hogwarts Legacy, the game, was the fact that it didn't ever really feel like we were students at Hogwarts. It felt more like the lessons and our studenting was kind of a side
afterthought.
Yes, a side bit. I would hope that the show actually feels like these are cadets at a school, that they are going to lessons, that there are certain expectations of students at what is a military academy. To what level it is a military academy is a completely different conversation. But essentially,
I mean, that could be something they explore in the show. It's like, how militaristic are we going to go with this? And that could be quite interesting.
But I would hope that it actually feels like they're at school and they're not, again, an occasional lesson here and there, and the rest of the time they're brewing polyjuice potion in a toilet, for want of a better metaphor.
I mean, that does lead me to something I'm nervous about. I'm expecting this show to go a little more towards slightly younger audiences and maybe lean into comedy a little bit more than previous Star Trek, which I am totally fine with, but I'm afraid they're going to go too far with that and make it feel like Degrassi or something, where it's like a teen drama, and that I really, really do not want to happen.
I never watched that.
I mean, there must be a British equivalent to Degrassi.
Biker Grove, maybe, but that was like the early 90s. I don't know. I don't remember many.
Well, I mean, I guess there's Skins.
Oh, I have heard of Skins.
Skins is way more adult than Degrassi, though. But yeah, I want them to take a slightly lighter tone with this because, again, you are dealing with kids who are coming of age, so to speak, throughout the show, or at least I would assume. But I really, really don't want them to go down like a teen high school drama route with the story because, once again, I feel like that would be so far off tone for Star Trek as a series that would be a wild misstep to take. And
you liked Lower Decks, though, and that is, unashamedly a comedy.
True, but it's an adult comedy. Like, occasionally it gets a little slapsticky and childish at times, but it is definitely meant to be a more adult-styled comedy, and it's not, like, wrought with teen drama tropes of like, oh, this person likes this person, but they just got cheated on and then got chlamydia and like all this weird, stupid shit that I really don't want to see integrated into Star Trek. But I am nervous that it's a possibility considering the cast that they've put together for the cadets. Like, they're very young. Like, they're quite young, and it makes me nervous. I'm really hoping that that's not the route they're going to take with the show.
Yes, we don't want High School Musical Star Trek edition, do we?
I mean, you can give me another musical episode of Strange New Worlds if you want, but yeah, I just don't want the teen drama. The drama, yes. Like, I want to see conflict. I want to see characters in conflict with one another. And considering they are young adults, I'm sure, again, it's going to feel a little different to the normal character conflict we get on like a starship. But it's a really fine line to take there without it seeming soapy.
Kind of connected to that, I do kind of want them to avoid sort of the typical teenage cliche behaviors that kind of make me roll my eyes in movies these days. The sort of having them all being bratty and completely unlikable. I want to actually, like these characters, which again is something I found difficult to do on Discovery and Picard in some respects. Maybe not showing them to be mutineers or assaulting their superior officers in the first episode. Maybe let's not do that again.
I guarantee there's going to be at least one character that is going to be like the bad boy of the group, the rebel of the group who has trouble with authority. Like, I'm calling it now, there is going to be that character. But there's a way to do that character that's not insufferable. And again, it's difficult to do, to get everyone to be kind of on board with a character like that. But there's the potential that they could. But yeah, like, I guarantee at least one of these new cadets is going to be following some of those, like, teen-style tropes. Hopefully not too many, though. Again, I would like them to be more along the lines of Uhura as a cadet from Strange New Worlds, where they take it seriously, they don't follow all the tropes of young adults and everything, they actually have interesting stories and things to say. Because I think, again, in Strange New Worlds, they dealt with Uhura's, like, uneasiness with Starfleet really well. Like, in her first episode devoted to her, I think it's the second episode of the first season, she explicitly says, I don't feel very Starfleet, I don't know if I'm in the right place. But she doesn't come off as, like, bratty and shitty about it. She's just genuinely unsure of her place in the galaxy, doesn't really know if this is the right path for her to take, and then over some time does make the decision like, yes, this is where I want to be, this is what I'm going to focus on. And I think that was handled really well, so I'm hoping they go down a similar route with some of these characters.
I am glad to see that our engineer Reno is coming back as a member of main cast, according to Wikipedia, not as recurring or guest, because Tilly's apparently coming back as guest cast, but Reno is main cast, so
we'll actually be seeing more of Reno than Tilly, it would seem.
If that's true, then I'm looking forward to that, because I felt that Reno was quite an enjoyable character that they introduced to Discovery and then did bugger all with, as far as I'm concerned.
I have a strong theory. How much you want to bet I'm right on this, too? Like, mark the time code, people, the date that you watch this, because I'm calling a storyline that's gonna happen. Just watch. Reno, being the wisecracking smartass that she is going to be the character that has the heart-to-heart with said rebel bad boy character and gets them to straighten out their act by kind of speaking to them on their own terms. I'm calling it now. That is going to happen within the first couple episodes of this new show. Guaranteed, it's gonna happen.
I'm also then going to call out that Tilly is going to have a relatively similar conversation, but it will be to the shy, nervous one that's lacking confidence.
I agreed. I think 100% she will be like, you remind me of me, and let me help you, like, break out of your shell a little bit. Like, guaranteed both those things are going to happen. Again, everyone, mark down the date so that we can say, haha, we told you so, way back before even a trailer came out for this show.
Yes, which is the other interesting thing, that we don't even really know when it's coming.
It's got to be fairly soon. They began production almost a year ago, so they're probably either wrapping up production now or already have wrapped up production. So I'm willing to bet we're going to get a trailer at least before the year is over. My guess would be either late summer or sometime in the fall. We're going to get a trailer for this new show, maybe coinciding around the time Strange New World's new season ends, actually.
Yes, which is coming quite soon for us, isn't it? So I suppose we will be doing episodes about reviews of each episode, as is our way.
I was just going to say, hopefully the new season of Strange New Worlds is as good as the previous ones. I actually just read a review yesterday that it was not, which makes me a little nervous, but we'll see. I like to develop my own opinions on these things, and it was a spoiler-free review, so it doesn't say anything, just that they didn't enjoy it as much as they did before.
I mean, you weren't confident after seeing the first trailer, but you were more confident after seeing the second trailer, so...
The first trailer made me very nervous. I was like, ooh, I feel like we're going on this gimmick train a little too hard. I like the gimmick episodes that we've done in the first two seasons, but it looked like that first trailer was just nothing but gimmick episodes 100%, and I was like, I don't want to do that. But then the new trailer did look a little more, or a little less gimmicky, and like we were gonna have some more standard episodes to enjoy as well. So again, we'll see how we feel about the season when it actually airs.
Yes, so we have that to look forward to. Let us know down in the comments what sort of things you would like to see Starfleet Academy tackle. If you're going to even watch the program, because I'm sure quite a few people, given that it is a derivative is the wrong word. Spin-off, thank you, from Discovery. I'm sure some people are just not watching it at all, not even considering it because of that. But if you are considering watching it, let us know down in the comments what you think. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel for more content from us at One Track Mind. But until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.